Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and this is the all-new Samsung Galaxy S25 Edge. I did an early hands-on look at it, but now I have the physical box here at my home, so I thought we'd take a look at it, unbox it, set it up, and then compare it to things such as the iPhone Air dummy unit, as well as the S25 Ultra, and just see what it has to offer. This comes in at $1,099, and you have two options for storage, 256 and 512 gigabytes. It's not upgradable, and we have three different colors: titanium icy blue, titanium silver, and titanium jet black. Now, this was already open once Samsung sent it to me, so let's go ahead and take the top of the box off and see what we've got. So we have titanium silver here, and then as far as the paperwork or anything that we get with it, let's open it up and take a look. We have a SIM card ejector tool, and then it looks like we've got a quick start guide along with maybe a warranty card, and then also our USB-C to USB-C cable. So that's all we get in the box, nothing else. And then we have the phone itself. So here's the phone itself with the cover on it. So let me put all of this away and then we'll take a closer look. So here is the phone itself. You can see super thin if we turn it to the side. Let's take the cover off the front of the display here. And as far as overall specs, well, the design is super thin, very impressive to hold if you've ever gotten your hands on something such as a super thin phone or one of those dummy units. And the overall design, I actually really like this. It has Corning Glass Ceramic 2 on the front. Now, it's not an anti-reflective display, unfortunately, and side by side with the S25 Ultra, you can see the difference here. So definitely a difference, and it's about as reflective as the S25 Plus. So you can see that here side by side with the same front glass. So that's one downside, but overall, a very nice display as far as the way it looks. The display itself is 6.7 inches, comes in at 1440 by 3120, and let's take a look around the outside edge. Now on the right-hand side, of course, we have our power sleep wake button. We've got a volume button here and an antenna line. On the top, we've got what looks to be a couple microphones and also another antenna line. On the left-hand side, we have a millimeter wave antenna, it looks like, along with an antenna line, another antenna line at the bottom, and then on the bottom of the phone, we have USB-C, a microphone next to that, a speaker on the other side, and then a SIM card tray. I love to see that we still have physical SIM card trays on everything but iPhones, basically, so let's go ahead and take a look. I believe it holds one SIM card, but we can use an eSIM with it as well, so that gives you an idea. It looks like, well, we may be able to hold two, but I think it holds just one there. So pop that back into place. As far as the overall weight, well, it's 163 grams or 5.75 ounces compared to the S25 Ultra at 218 grams or 7.69 ounces. It's just 5.8 millimeters thin, so incredibly thin, and we'll compare that in a moment. It also has a Snapdragon 8 Elite inside, 12 gigabytes of RAM, so no compromise there whatsoever. And then the rear cameras, we have a 200 megapixel f1.7 wide. It's the same one and the same sensor that we get in the S25 Ultra. We do have a 12 megapixel ultra wide, and that's an f2.2 it seems. So that's a little bit of a step down, but honestly that's fine as it allows more light and might give you better images in the dark. So that's something that they've updated there. As far as the front-facing camera, well, that's a 12 megapixel as well. And then we have a 3900 milliamp hour battery, and battery life is somewhere between the base S24 and base S25. Now let's go ahead and turn it on, and then we'll compare the overall thickness of the phone. So we'll go ahead and boot it up here. And this is something, unless you get your hands on this, it's hard to explain. There's something about it that whether it feels futuristic or just something that's more high tech, because it's so thin that they were able to fit all of these things in here without compromising on specs other than battery. It's pretty impressive. I would have liked to see maybe a newer battery in it, and you'll see it says welcome and start. Now, before we set it up, let's go ahead and compare the overall size. So the S25 Ultra is right here. You'll see side by side what it looks like. That gives you an idea. And then if we put them here, it's super thin overall. So almost about two of the S25 Edges will make up the S25 Ultra minus the camera bump. So pretty impressively thin as far as that goes. I don't know if anyone really was asking for this. I believe Samsung says that people were interested in having something super thin and lightweight, and you definitely notice the weight difference here. As far as the bottom, let's take a look here. So we'll put these together like this. and you can see the bottom, just how thin this actually is. Now with the S25 Plus, you can see at the bottom of the phone here, as well as side by side. Let's put it here like this. You can see the difference in thickness. A little bit thinner there, definitely not as big of a difference compared to the S25 Ultra. Now compared with the iPhone 17 dummy unit, here's what we have here. They're basically the same thickness. So you can see that here. I measured this with calipers at 5.8 millimeters. We also have 5.8 millimeters or so, and you'll see that side by side. Very, very similar as far as the overall size. If we stand them up side by side, again, it's slightly shorter with the iPhone 17 Air, but very, very similar. The sides are similar. The bottoms are expected to be very similar. It's just more rounded on the iPhone 17 Air dummy unit. The S25 Edge feels a little bit more grippy because it's less rounded, but overall that gives you an idea. They're basically going to be the same size, same thinness, same sort of specs and everything else. So that gives you an idea side by side and what to expect when using those or looking at those when the iPhone 17 Air is available as well. Now, as far as setup, let's go ahead and get that going. We'll go ahead and tap start here. Give it a second. And it says for your review, we have to agree to at least one of these, the Samsung policy, and we can opt out of diagnostic data. We'll tap agree. It says easy setup with another device. Well, I have the S25 Ultra here. Let's go ahead and get that set up. And we'll set it up with a Galaxy or Android device. We'll scan the QR code. It says connecting. And there we go. Instantly connects, then we'll put in the PIN. Now it says copy data from your Android device. One thing I wanted to mention is this does rock on the table pretty easily. Both of them do, but the S25 Edge is definitely more noticeable that way. We'll tap next, and it says just a few moments. Confirm your other Galaxy S25 Ultra screen lock. We'll tap next. Again, we'll put in the passcode, give it just a moment here, and it says choose what to restore. We can restore Google Photos, apps, contacts, and everything else. We'll tap restore, and we'll bring everything over. You can continue using it, and now we'll set up the fingerprint sensor. So we do have an under-display fingerprint sensor. We'll put in my current PIN, then we'll tap continue, and then register our fingerprint. So do that here. And pretty similar to any other fingerprint setup like you'd expect. There we go. And we can add another if we'd like. I'll add that. Now my fingerprints are added. We'll tap next. We'll tap continue. Then we'll set up Google services. Then it's telling us about Gemini, the AI assistant. This has Gemini, of course, built in. We'll turn that on. And then it says getting your phone ready. And then we've got all the different Galaxy AI advanced intelligence options such as call assist, writing assist, interpreter, Samsung Notes, voice recorder, browsing assist, photo assist, drawing assist, audio eraser, photo ambient wallpaper, and now brief. All of those things are very helpful, and I use some of those. I don't use Bixby though. And then we have auto blocker for different services, customization services, and personal data intelligence. You can agree or disagree to any of those. And then we'll tap next here, and we'll select either light mode or dark mode. And then it says you're all set up. We'll go home, and that's super simple and straightforward. So now it's set up. It's installing different apps that I have on the other device, and it will take a minute to sort of restore everything. And we'll tap OK here, and you'll see it says syncing about to start. So it's going to sync everything across, install all the apps. I'm already signed into Google. It's super simple to get this set up. Now the next thing is, let's go ahead and go home. We'll wait for it to get set up a little bit, but let's first take a look at our settings here. We'll go down to display, see what we've got. I probably passed it already here. There we are, display, and you'll see light and dark mode. Of course, adaptive brightness. Let's turn that off for the video here. And then we have motion smoothness. So this is a 120 hertz display. You have standard or adaptive if you'd like. And then if we go back, we can go back to or go down here a little bit, and you can see the resolutions. Default, we're at 2340 by 1080, and we can bump that up to the sharpest visuals, but more battery use. Because this is a thinner battery, I'll leave it on full HD for now, instead of quad HD. And then, of course, we have all of the same things you would expect with OneUI. And speaking of OneUI, we should have OneUI 7.1. So if we go to a software update, let's see what we've got here. It says connecting to server. We'll give it just a second here. Checking for update. So I'm guessing we're going to have an update because we have OneUI 7.0. So we'll give that a moment, sort of do its thing, and check for an update, let it install all the things in the background. As it's installing apps, I thought you may want to see the overall heat signature with a FLIR thermal camera. So you can see here at its hottest point, we're at about 40 degrees Celsius. It's bumping up to about 41 degrees Celsius, but this gives you an idea of what you can see as far as its heat signature. And it is a little bit warm since it's installing quite a few updates and things in the background. And on the back here, you'll see that it's at about, well, 40 to 41 degrees Celsius. As far as Fahrenheit, you'll see we're at about 110 degrees Fahrenheit. If we flip it back to the front, we should be around the same, 104 degrees Fahrenheit. It's going to get a little bit warm, but it seems to be dissipating that heat nicely. It does not feel that hot when you're holding it in your hand, and you don't feel any heat around the outside edge, just the back and front as it's dissipating that heat. So it looks like they've got the thermal management down, but we don't know how that performs over time. So I'll let everything continue installing, updating, and then we'll take a look at things such as the speakers, speed, and more. Now everything restored, and I have all of my apps. I don't have the same layout, but you can see all the apps here, from things such as X and TikTok and Speed Test and Pocket Casts, and all of the things I installed on the previous device are now here. So everything's fully set up. One thing I wanted to note is if we go into our software update, go to download and install, we don't have an update just yet. I do suspect we'll have one fairly soon, but you'll see it's OneUI version 7 with Android 15. Of course, we do expect Android 16 on this device and all of the latest updates, but overall, so far it's been pretty good. Just using it here a little bit in between recording video, it's super fluid and fast. Everything's incredibly smooth, just going in and going into different apps. I'm very impressed with its overall smoothness so far. When it comes to PWM, or how the screen controls brightness, it's flickering the display to do that like most OLED displays. However, it seems to be at a fairly high rate. So in general, there's no issues there with the overall flickering. You can see that here at 120 frames per second slow motion. You can see it a little bit, but nothing like we get on other phones that are maybe at a slower rate. So for most people, this shouldn't bother your eyes. When it comes to the speakers, let's take a listen, as I've heard they're a little bit different between different devices. So we'll compare this phone with the S25 Ultra. So we'll compare the speakers using the S25 Edge first with my S25 Ultra versus iPhone 16 Pro Max video. So let's go ahead and take a listen, and I have a decibel meter here as well. So comparing both of them, the S25 Ultra definitely has a more rich sound, maybe a little bit deeper bass, but it has more room for larger speakers or more resonance. Overall, though, the S25 Edge went to about 80 decibels or so, where the S25 Ultra I saw peak at around 85 decibels. So definitely a little bit louder, sounds better on the S25 Ultra, but they're close enough that I don't think most people will care, and many people will just use headphones with them, but I thought we'd compare that. Now, as far as the cameras, I know some people were concerned since we have a thinner body of the overall phone, but we have the same 200 megapixel sensor. If we go into the camera settings, you'll see here that we have 12 megapixels on the left. Go into that and we can go up to 200 megapixels if we want to. We can change that however we'd like. And of course, we have your typical options here, 4:3, 16:9, or whatever you want to use is available just like it is on the Ultra. If we go into the video modes here, the same thing is true. So we have HDR off just so it's not ultra bright, but you can see if we go into our options, we can go up to 8K at 30 frames per second. Now the phone is warming up a bit now that I'm running the camera, and hopefully it doesn't overheat or anything like that, but under Ultra HD, 60 frames per second. And then of course, if we bring this in, Let's bring in the S25 Plus. And then if we go into video modes, we can zoom in. We've got this sort of slider here. We can zoom way in, and it gets a little bit grainy, of course, as you would expect at 10 times zoom, since we don't have a zoom lens there, but overall it looks pretty good. So if we go back, let's go into our settings. And then of course you have all the other options here as well. So lots of other things if you want to use your camera, just like you would on the Ultra. If we spin this around though, here's the camera. We'll take a closer look here. Let's make sure we're in the right mode. So we'll change this to Ultra HD, 60 frames per second like this video. And here is the forward-facing camera on the new S25 Edge. This gives you an idea of what it looks like and sounds like compared to this microphone here. And let me know what you think sounds best and looks best in the comments below as far as the quality of this video. Do you think it's comparable with the S25 Ultra? Or would you like to see even higher resolutions here? I think it's pretty good overall, and I'm fine with a 12 megapixel ultra wide as it will allow for more light since the overall pixel size will be greater and you'll be able to capture more light. So no issues for me there. Of course, you're not going to get 48 megapixels, but unless you're making the photo the size of a building, it's really not going to matter there. Now the battery, of course, is a concern for many people. So if we go into battery, you'll see we can charge at the same levels and speeds as we do with the S25 Ultra. And then we have power saving modes, battery protection. It'll adjust charging behavior to sort of extend that lifespan. And then of course you can see your usage. So I'll have to test it out to see what that's like. As far as speed overall, it feels super fluid and fast. Of course, playing games should be fine. It's a Snapdragon 8 Elite, no differences there. And as far as anything else, I really don't expect this to be any different other than the screen size, the anti-reflective display, and battery life. Battery is probably the biggest concern, and it also does have wireless charging. So if we bring in a charging adapter here, this is a MagSafe adapter, but you should be able to use it here. There it goes. It starts to charge immediately. So no issues there with charging. And as far as the wallpaper that's included, let's see if we have anything else. We'll go in here, go to Wallpaper and Style, and change wallpapers. And this is what we have. So it's interactive here, like you would expect. And then we have our typical variations depending on which phone you have. So the black one, or sort of the one that's default here. So that gives you an idea of what to expect there. And then if we go into wallpaper, we have some other options as well. And of course, a lot of customization with AI. We've got Google Gemini built in, something I find that I use all the time and will be using a lot. So you'll see here that it's already using Gemini, but it's something that I find that I use a lot to identify things around the room, or just sometimes if I have some questions, or maybe what is the best video to watch about a certain car or something along those lines. It can research things such as graphic cards. I used that the other day to pick up a graphics card. I asked it which version was the best. It used deep research, went out, found that for me, and gave me a comparison so I could make a better determination. So I love this phone overall. I know some people are not going to love it because of its battery life, but there's something about it once you get it in your hand that it just feels different than anything else out there. I'm not going to put a case on it, and I'll use it for a while here. And let me know if you'd like to see a full review or anything specific you'd like to know about the phone. Now, I'll link these wallpapers in the description below so you can check them out if you'd like to. And of course, if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.